Hello, everyone. I am the Lore Explorer, and this is Andrew Prahlow, the brilliant composer of the Outer Wilds soundtrack. And last week, on October 17th, I was lucky enough to attend a concert that he held in Brooklyn, New York. And today, I want to talk about that experience. I think you're all going to love this story, and I think it'll be useful for people to consider for other concerts that he holds in the future. It's also cool because he made a huge announcement at the end of the concert. He recorded the entire thing live, and he's going to do a third vinyl release with those recordings. So what I heard him play is directly going to be what's on the third vinyl's release. So I'm in a unique position here where I'm able to review the third vinyl early. Now obviously, I can't speak to how it's going to sound on vinyl just yet, but I can tell you that the first vinyl sounded awesome. And at the Music Hall of Williamsburg, everything sounded extravagant. Accompanying Andrew was a full orchestra of at least 12 people, along with a conductor. They had vertical light bars set up that flashed awesome colors during the show, and they were just surrounding everybody, so it was pretty cool. It was a sight to behold. But before we really start getting into the concert, full disclosure here, Andrew actually did comp my ticket and let me enter for free as a reviewer. So I was let in as press and even given a VIP badge, which I wasn't expecting. I showed up at least a half an hour before the show was supposed to start. But when I got inside, the venue was already pretty packed. There were two little platforms raised on either side with railings, and you could barely even fit up there. I poked my head up the steps, but I really couldn't get any further. So I just stood at the top of the steps while I tried to get a view of the stage. And while standing, I started talking to a couple and their friend who were up from Philly, PA. After about 2 or 3 minutes of chatting with them, they were able to suss out the fact that I was indeed the Lore Explorer. I was all awkward about it. I was like, yeah, I'm the Splorman. And they were really cool about it. They were kind enough to just, invite me to stand with them. And they told me not to worry. They won't blow up my spot. And they'll keep my, identity as secret. So a huge shout out and thank you to them for just being awesome people. But even so, it was crowded, so I figured I would go up on the balcony. But to start, Andrew had a band called Vines open, and I have to say, they did really good. They were pretty great. They had a sound very familiar and honestly reminded me a lot of Andrew's work. It was good. I honestly did appreciate them, and a few other people I talked to appreciated them a lot as well. And I could tell that the crowd felt bad because they didn't know when Vine's songs ended, so no one knew when to clap because Andrew has this thing where he'll do long pauses in songs and stuff like that. So I think everybody felt bad, but I think they really did do great, and Andrew made a good choice with them. When they were done playing, they played a few songs, and the lead artist, I suppose, she got up to the microphone and she told us, she said, "Get ready," because she's heard Andrew's set and she cried her eyes out. And boy, she was not kidding. Afterwards, Andrew came out and he opened his set with a fitting classic, Timber Hearth. And I can't remember if it was before that or after, but he started speaking about the concert and what he planned for the set. Of course, I love the original soundtrack, but I was happy to hear that he was going to be playing mostly music from the Lost Reels, a completely standalone soundtrack that you won't find anywhere in the game, but I promise you, it's a very much official part of the soundtrack to Outer Wilds. I genuinely think it's some of the best music in the entire soundtrack, so I was so excited to hear that. He then proceeded to capture the entirety of my attention for the remainder of the show. I honestly couldn't even guess how long it was that he played because it just felt like it went by in the blink of an eye. As you all know, it's been a while since I've made content on the game, and in that time I hadn't listened to much of the music in the past year either. But sitting there and hearing it all in real life was sort of overwhelmingly beautiful. Since I hadn't heard it in a while, I found something very interesting happening. It was honestly, truthfully, like hearing old friends show up one after the other after not seeing them in such a long time. As each character's instrument got played, a metaphorical chord was struck in my memory. It almost felt like these characters were there in front of me or something, just actually performing for us, and I'm not kidding. I think The Lost Reels does something interesting because each song sort of tells a whole story on its own. For instance, I mostly believe the third track of The Lost Reels, Rivers and Times, is in reference to the hatchling, and may sort of speak on what they were to go through if they were to end the time loop and head to the stranger to survive. I actually have a whole write-up on it on Reddit going through my interpretation of it, but I like that aspect of the music a lot. And while sitting there and listening to these songs, it sort of felt like I was reading different chapters in a book that I just couldn't put down. It was so great to hear after so long, and definitely got me fired up to hop back into the universe of Outer Wilds a bit. I'm not sure who the sound engineer for the concert was or anything like that, but it was seriously awesome. I was just about as far away from the stage as you could get, up in the balcony on the highest level of the minimal choice of the stadium-like row seating. You couldn't get any further back unless you went to the bar. Yet, not only could I hear the music, the whole floor was shaking. I could feel the vibrations in my chest as clear as day, and I couldn't help but feel that this is what being rocked feels like. I was being rocked, and I wasn't the only one who felt that way. While recording some snippets for the review here, I caught another audience member in their own little world just nodding their head up and down to the music intensely. At times, I would just go right up to the middle of the balcony and just lean over to get videos or pictures. But the view I had of everything was amazing. Although I will say a user from Discord, Book, was also at the concert that night, right in front of the stage, and they had just as good, if not arguably a better view. But I'm not kidding, I am sort of legitimately worried about their hearing, because if I could feel the music like that all the way in the back, I can hardly imagine how it felt for them. But Andrew and the orchestra really did just nail the entirety of the Lost Reels, which I want to reiterate again is top-notch Outer Wilds music. Andrew mentioned between songs that he created the Lost Reels specifically as music to be considered for a nomination to the Grammys. Sadly, he didn't get a nomination, but you can tell that when he crafted the Lost Reels, he put all the time and effort one would expect from a winner of the Grammys. Not only do they sort of tell a story on their own, they really are just strikingly and hauntingly beautiful. In the moment, there were a few times where it was hard to contain myself from the excitement. It took everything in me not to literally yell out, "Go Andrew!" Like a few times I wanted to yell out, "You got it, Andrew!" Like I swear. And for the rest of the weekend, I was just thinking back to specific parts of the songs that I just could not get out of my head. I will say, and Andrew will probably agree with me on this, when he busted out the banjo for 14.3 billion years, his banjo sounded a bit funky. It did. Because he mentioned between songs again that his banjo was kind of acting up while he was preparing for the concert. So I think that maybe his banjo was just having a little bit of an issue. But to be honest, personally, I feel like it did not detract anything from the piece. And I have to say, the concert was just so impactful for me. Sitting up on the balcony and just thinking about all of the fans of the game down there gathered, just thinking about how they all have come from around the world, I mean, literally around the world, to hear music from this game played live that I love so much. And how a good majority of these people have probably seen some of my videos and hopefully gotten a smile or entertainment or something from what I've done. And the fact that I was even invited here to begin with, that I was, in the position, in the community to get this invitation, I just couldn't help but cry. And of course, when the concert was just about to wrap up, Andrew decided to end the concert with the only fitting choice: End Times. And let me tell you guys, when you've played Outer Wilds as much as I have, and you've had about 4 hours of sleep the night before, and have been on the go all day, and in real life, you hear End Times start playing, for a split second, it might set off this internal instinct that everyone has to survive, and you may feel compelled to run as fast as you can towards whatever exit of the venue that you may be inhabiting at the time may be, but I suggest that you fight that urge, because it really is a nice song, actually, when you think about it and you listen to it. It's kind of pretty, we just kind of associate it with a bad time, so, sorry, I thought that was funny. Because I really did, I had that instinct for just a split second. I was like, oh no, oh, wait, yay. But anyway, after the concert was over, Andrew was kind enough to do autographs and take photographs with everyone right there in front of the stage. Now, I went down and I introduced myself as the Lore Explorer, and he seemed pretty happy to see me. We started chatting a bit, and he signed my vinyl cases for me. But since he had other people who wanted signatures and stuff, I didn't want to hold him up there, right? I don't want to be selfish. So he started taking pictures with, other people, and eventually he went out to the entrance to sell some merch and sign more stuff. So I went out there too, and I waited in line to get a shirt and a photo with good old Andrew. Sadly, in typical Outer Wilds fashion, the shirts sold out almost immediately, but that honestly doesn't surprise me because there were a ton of people in line who wanted one. I was near the end of the line, so I was doomed from the start. But that did mean I had a bit more time to take photos because I was able to just kind of wait till the last couple people behind me went and then, get back in line and kind of chat with them for a little extra time. And of course, when we were taking pictures, the camera guy Andrew hired took a few. And, he said, here, give me your phone. I'll take a few more with that. And then he was like, okay, the lighting's not too great there. Why don't you guys move over? And then a literal freaking alarm went off, like a fire alarm or something in the building went off. And it threw us all off. So we all kind of got distracted. And we never got around to taking that, better photo. But hopefully the professional camera and the professional camera crew took a better photo with their camera. But after the photos, I shook his hand, congratulated him on an excellent show, and thanked him for an amazing night. As I left, Andrew mentioned a few times that he'd message me after the show, but I figured he just meant that he'd email me in a few days to talk about the concert and whatnot. So I went back to my hotel room, which is about half an hour away. When I got there, it was just after midnight, so I called my dad to tell him, what happened, how awesome it was, and just tell him that I was in for the night. Right after I hung up the phone, I checked my email, and sure enough, Andrew had already emailed me. He thanked me for coming to the show, but he also told me that he and his crew were going to be out at a certain bar in Brooklyn. Now, mind you, he emailed this to me because this was the first time that we had ever met in person. So I emailed him back my phone number and I asked him how long they would be there at the bar to see, one, if I was even really invited, and two, to see if I would make it before they had left, because it was already 12:10 by now, and by the time I got the email and charged my phone a little bit, it was going to take me around a half hour or 45 minutes to even get there. I wouldn't get there till 1 a.m. But instead of waiting for a reply, I charged my phone to like 25-30% to make sure I could get home, and I hopped my happy butt right into a Lyft and headed back into inner Brooklyn. When I showed up, he was still there and was laughing and smiling with his friends. He was sitting there talking to someone else, so I waited for a lull in the conversation to sort of make my presence known. But guys, I am not kidding you when I tell you, when he saw me, this man's face lit up and he smiled super big. He shook my hand and yelled, "You made it!" like we were old friends. He introduced me to his girlfriend as his friend and a guy who makes content on Outer Wild. I asked him what's going on, and from there we just sort of sat down and hit it off. We nerded out about Outer Wilds and its community for a solid 2 hours. Guys, I hung out with Andrew Prahlow for 2 hours. Now, obviously, I complimented him a million times about his music and the soundtrack, but to my surprise, he kept complimenting me and my channel a bunch as well. He told me that he was grateful for all the support that I've shown him and Outer Wilds with my channel. Because as you guys know, as soon as I hear news or anything that would benefit the team at Outer Wilds or Mobius, I immediately share it with the community because I'm passionate about it and I want it, and I figure if I want it, you guys would want it too. So, he thanked me for that. And he mentioned that he can tell how much work goes into my videos and that I always present all the information in an interesting way. And on top of that, he told me that he and Alex Beecham, the lead developer of Outer Wilds, have had multiple full-on discussions about me and my work. I'm not sure if I can even express how amazing, heartwarming, and fulfilling that was to actually hear from Andrew Prahlow. I'm sure you all understand that under it all, I'm really just an Outer Wilds superfan at heart. So to hear the composer of Outer Wilds tell me that, him and Alex are fans of my work is just incredible to me. The fact that not only did he give me a VIP ticket to the concert, he actually invited me to the after party and hung out with me for hours. It's just unbelievable. Way more than I ever expected. Andrew really did go above and beyond for me, and I honestly couldn't be more grateful. But something that was super obvious to me is that he was also super grateful for just everybody's support, and not just mine, just the entire community surrounding him and just propping him up. He's so grateful for that, and he's so genuine about it. You can tell he really cares about this community and his work, and I find that very endearing. Now, I know that not everyone that goes to an Andrew Prahlow concert will have the same experience I did, but I can assure you that even if I paid for a normal ticket, and even if Andrew never emailed me afterward, I would have been more than happy with my experience there. I went back to my hotel room, and it was only midnight, and I was in New York, the city that never sleeps, for the first time. But even still, I was fully happy to tell my dad, hey, I'm staying in for the night, because I just had such a great time at the concert that my mind was already running. I was already thinking about that and just having a great time with that my day was already fulfilled. I was already happy. So I'm telling you, if you ever have the chance to get to see one of those concerts, be sure to do yourself a favor and go. A follower of mine said that they only heard about the concert through my posts about it. And when they saw those posts, they bought a ticket immediately and booked a flight from Montreal, Canada to Brooklyn, New York. And they absolutely loved it. They loved it so much that they took the time afterward to comment on my post thanking me for letting them know about it. That comment honestly made my heart so happy after I experienced what I experienced. To hear that I was the reason they went to the concert, that made me so happy. So hopefully I can convince a couple of you to go as well. And I fully believe that if you do, you'll have the same feelings as the kind viewer I had just mentioned. Be sure to follow Andrew on X, or keep an eye out on my channel to hear news about the third vinyl's pressing, because that is super cool. It's gonna be awesome, because what I just talked about is not just about the concert, it's about that live vinyl pressing too. So keep that in mind when it comes out. As usual, a huge thank you to the members here on the channel. You're all amazing and deserve a huge thank you for supporting me through all of these years and getting me into the position in the community that I'm now in, which allows me to be lucky enough to do things like go to New York and visit Andrew Prahlow and hang out with him. You guys, thank you so much. You honestly all deserve thank yous from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. I love you all. And that goes for each and every one of you who have watched my videos and come this far with me. As always, this is the Lore Explorer imploring you to go see one of Andrew Prahlow's concerts if you ever have the chance. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.